Tensions across the Middle East have entered an increasingly volatile and uncertain phase as new allegations surrounding unconventional weapons use add another layer of complexity to an already dangerous conflict between the United States and Iran. What began as a series of targeted strikes has now evolved into a multifaceted confrontation, blending conventional warfare, psychological operations, and strategic signaling, each development raising the stakes not just for the region, but for global stability. In recent days, alarming claims emerging from Iranian media have captured international attention. According to these reports, the United States may have deployed unusual explosive devices in areas surrounding Iran's underground missile facilities, sites commonly referred to as missile cities. These facilities are widely believed to house critical missile systems and infrastructure, many of them concealed deep beneath the surface to shield them from aerial bombardment. The alleged weapons are described as small, deceptive explosive devices, objects that reportedly resemble everyday items. Some accounts claim they look similar to food containers, a detail that has intensified concern among observers due to the potential risk posed to civilians. If such descriptions are accurate, the devices would represent not only a tactical tool, but also a psychological one, blurring the line between battlefield and civilian space. The initial reports originated from Iranian-linked outlets, which described the devices as compact explosive packages scattered across areas near Shiraz, a region known for its proximity to sensitive military installations. According to these claims, the objects detonated when handled, leading to casualties on the ground. While the exact number of victims remains unclear, the narrative has been enough to trigger widespread alarm. Independent investigators and analysts have since attempted to verify these claims using open-source intelligence. By examining available images, geolocation data, and known weapons systems, some experts have suggested that the objects resemble Blue 91B scatterable anti-tank mines, components of the U.S. military's Gator mine system. These mines are typically deployed from aircraft and are designed to spread across a wide area, creating a hazardous environment that restricts movement. Such systems are not new in military doctrine. They have long been used as tools of area denial, a strategy aimed at preventing enemy forces from accessing or maneuvering through key terrain. In the context of the current conflict, analysts argue that deploying mines around missile facilities could serve a clear purpose, limiting Iran's ability to move mobile launchers, restricting access routes, and increasing vulnerability to follow-up airstrikes. However, despite the apparent strategic logic, the situation remains deeply uncertain. There has been no official confirmation from the United States regarding the use of such weapons. Military authorities have declined to comment, leaving analysts and observers to piece together evidence from indirect sources. This lack of confirmation has fueled competing narratives, with some suggesting that the devices could have been misidentified, planted by other actors, or even fabricated as part of an information campaign. The ambiguity surrounding these claims highlights a broader reality of modern warfare, where information itself becomes a weapon. In conflicts of this scale, perception can be as influential as physical force. Reports, images, and narratives circulate rapidly, shaping public opinion and influencing strategic decisions long before definitive evidence emerges. Beyond the immediate controversy over these alleged devices, the broader trajectory of the conflict paints an equally concerning picture. The war, which escalated dramatically in early 2026 following coordinated strikes involving the United States, has expanded into a sustained and complex confrontation. What was initially framed as a limited operation has evolved into a prolonged engagement with multiple fronts and dimensions. Iran's response has been both persistent and adaptive. Missile and drone attacks have continued despite ongoing airstrikes, often launched from mobile platforms or concealed facilities. This resilience has complicated efforts to degrade Iran's capabilities and has forced a reassessment of tactics among U.S. military planners. At the same time, the strategic environment has grown increasingly fragile. The Strait of Hormuz, a vital choke point for global oil shipments, has become a focal point of tension. Disruptions to shipping in this narrow passage have had immediate repercussions on global energy markets, driving up prices and amplifying economic uncertainty worldwide. Amid these developments, the United States has begun significantly expanding its military presence in the region. Reports indicate that thousands of additional troops are being deployed alongside advanced combat units and support elements. The movement of forces, including airborne divisions and Marine expeditionary units, suggests preparation for a range of scenarios from enhanced deterrence to potential large-scale operations. Analysts note that the scale and speed of these deployments go beyond routine reinforcement. Instead, they point to a deliberate effort to establish a more flexible and robust military posture, one capable of responding to rapidly changing conditions on the ground. The inclusion of infantry brigades and command elements further a readiness for sustained operations should the situation escalate further. This buildup has fueled speculation about the possibility of a ground operation in Iran. While no official decision has been announced, the mere consideration of such an option marks a significant escalation. A ground campaign would represent a dramatic shift from the current strategy and would carry profound risks both militarily and politically. Parallel to these military developments, diplomatic efforts continue, though their effectiveness remains uncertain. Donald Trump has maintained that negotiations with Iran are ongoing, emphasizing that diplomacy remains on the table. At the same time, his administration has continued to apply military pressure, creating a dual-track approach that seeks to balance engagement with leverage. In a notable move, Trump announced a temporary pause on strikes targeting Iran's energy infrastructure. This pause, which has been extended multiple times, appears to be an attempt to keep diplomatic channels open while avoiding actions that could trigger further escalation. The decision has been interpreted by some as a sign of restraint, while others view it as a tactical pause rather than a shift in strategy. Despite these efforts, mistrust between the two sides remains deeply entrenched. Iranian officials have expressed skepticism about U.S. intentions, suggesting that diplomatic overtures may be used to delay or distract while military preparations continue. This lack of trust has made meaningful progress difficult, leaving negotiations in a fragile and uncertain state. Within Washington, senior officials have provided limited clarity about the administration's long-term plans. Marco Rubio, who plays a central role in shaping foreign policy, has emphasized that operational decisions will be left to military authorities. Well, those specifics, I'll leave it to the Department of War as to exactly what, but it's in their interest. It's in their national interest. The statement underscores the complexity of the situation and the challenges of balancing transparency with strategic ambiguity. It also reflects the broader uncertainty surrounding the conflict as policymakers weigh competing priorities and risks. As the war continues to evolve, the nature of the battlefield itself is undergoing transformation. Traditional lines between front lines and rear areas are becoming increasingly blurred. Airstrikes, cyber operations, covert actions, and psychological tactics are all being employed in tandem, creating a dynamic and unpredictable environment. The alleged use of scatterable mines, if confirmed, would represent another step in this evolution. Such weapons, particularly if designed to resemble everyday objects, raise serious ethical and humanitarian concerns. Even when intended for military targets, their presence in populated areas can pose significant risks to civilians, complicating efforts to adhere to international norms and laws of armed conflict. Humanitarian organizations have repeatedly warned about the long-term impact of such weapons. Mines and unexploded ordnance can remain active long after conflicts end, creating persistent dangers for local populations. The potential for civilian casualties, both immediate and delayed, adds another dimension to the already complex moral landscape of the war. Meanwhile, the human cost of the conflict continues to mount. Thousands of casualties have been reported, with widespread displacement affecting communities across the region. Infrastructure damage, economic disruption, and social instability are compounding the challenges faced by affected populations. Global reactions to the conflict have been mixed. Some countries have called for restraint and renewed diplomatic efforts, while others have expressed support for one side or the other. The lack of a unified international response has made it more difficult to coordinate efforts aimed at de-escalation. At the same time, the economic implications of the conflict are becoming increasingly apparent. Disruptions to energy supplies have triggered volatility in global markets, affecting everything from fuel prices to supply chains. The ripple effects are being felt far beyond the immediate, underscoring the interconnected nature of the global economy. As events continue to unfold, one reality stands out: the conflict has reached a critical juncture. Each decision, whether military or diplomatic, carries significant consequences. The margin for error is narrowing, and the potential for unintended escalation remains high. The coming days and weeks are likely to be military deployments, diplomatic negotiations, and developments on the ground will all play a role in shaping the trajectory of the war. Whether the situation moves toward de-escalation or further intensification will depend on a complex interplay of factors, many of them beyond the control of any single actor. For now, the world watches closely, aware that the stakes extend far beyond the immediate conflict. The choices made in this moment will not only determine the outcome of the war, but will also influence the broader geopolitical landscape for years to come. In this environment of uncertainty, one thing is clear: the situation remains fluid, unpredictable, and deeply consequential. The alleged deployment of unconventional weapons is just one piece of a much larger puzzle, one that continues to evolve with each passing day, bringing new challenges, new risks, and new questions about the future of the region and the world.